guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to guided reading. This is where we do all of our small groups. So for today's video, I wanted to sit down and chat with you about my ELA centers. This has been a very highly requested video on my channel since day one, and I'm finally taking the time to sit down and film it for you. So I'm first gonna talk about just the structure of my centers and how I set it up. Then I'm gonna talk to you about each center specifically and what goes on during that center. And then I'll chat with you about how I manage everything as far as like behaviors and things like that go, because I know a lot of teachers like hear centers and they go, I don't know how I'm supposed to manage everybody and how do you make sure kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing? So I will chat with you all about that in this video. I do wanna say that if you teach primary, like kinder, first, maybe even second, centers might look a little bit different because in third grade, typically they're supposed to already be reading. Now, I do a guided reading with all of my kids to either try and get them up to grade level or to reinforce strategies. So we'll chat about that in a second. So the basic structure of my centers is like this. We do ELA centers 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it is a 50-minute block. Now, I do 2 rotations each day, and each rotation is for 25 minutes, if that makes sense. So I have 4 reading groups, A, B, C, and D. A being my lowest group, B is my approaching, C and D are both on grade level, but D is like a little bit more towards the exceeding grade level. So that's how I separate my kids. And then during our ELA block, my group A is at resource. So they are getting their direct instruction during their resource time. So I only have 3 reading groups that are with me during my ELA block. So I have 2 rotations, and so they don't go to the same centers every single day. There are 4 possible centers that they may end up at. So the 4 centers that I have are guided reading, obviously, silent reading. This is their time to read silently. I don't have a like designated silent reading time other than maybe during bell work if they finish early. So guided reading, silent reading, and that might even shift to partner reading. We'll see how it goes. And then they have technology. So we use at our school, we have Lexia, we use Read Theory. I might have them on some sort of keyboarding activity, so some sort of a technology. And then the 4th one is something I call activity of the day, and I label it AOD, and they know what that means. And that varies, and I will chat about that once I get to that specific center. So those are the 4 possible centers that they may go to. So I use a certain form that I created to plan my guided reading or center time, and I'll put a photo of it here. So I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the specific skill that they're working on in guided reading, and then I write out the stations that they will be going to throughout the week. That way I make sure that they all go to a silent reading, they all go to technology, and they all go to each center enough times throughout the week. So my B group, since they are approaching, I see them 4 days a week. And then my C and D group, I see 2 days each. So on Monday, I'll see B and C. Tuesday, I'll see B and D. Wednesday, I'll see B and C. Thursday, I'll see B and D, if that makes sense. So I use that form to help me plan out my guided reading. It is not in my Teachers by Teachers store, but if you would like me to put it in there, just let me know, and it should be pretty easy. So that is the basic structure of how I lay out my centers. So now I wanna like specifically chat about each center. So I'm gonna start with the kind of obvious ones. For technology, they know they grab a computer, they grab their pair of headphones, and there are 2 table groups in my room that are designated for technology time. So they know that they have to sit at those 2 groups, that's where they need to be, and they get started right away. That is a really easy center to manage. The second one is silent reading, and I set some parameters at the very beginning of the year. One of them is you have to sit at least 6 feet away from somebody else, and we talk about what that looks like, and at this point in the year, they know exactly what that is. So they are not allowed to sit next to anybody. They have to have eyes on text. We stress that, and if they don't, they get a warning. I'll chat about that when we get to the management part of this video. But they know that they need to go to their book box, get their silent reading book, and they must sit at least 6 feet away from somebody else. Our activity of the day, they typically get 2 a week, sometimes only 1 depending on the week. The first day they get the activity of the day is a spelling menu. And I just started doing this to kind of reinforce spelling practice. So I will post the words up on my projector, and then they get a spelling menu. I will show you a picture of one here. I just Googled it, to be really honest with you, and their goal for that 25-minute block is they have to complete at least one spelling menu item. If they finish one, they keep going. You can do 2, 3, 4. So there is never enough time to finish all of them. So they are constantly working during that center. So if it is not a spelling menu activity of the day, it is something else that I've either created or I've found that I'm using to reinforce an idea. So I have a lot of writing prompts. I just found some on Teachers Pay Teachers. So I'll either have them writing, and they have to be writing the whole time. If it's not a writing prompt, it might be a grammar worksheet to reinforce a skill or something like that. If it is an activity of the day that they can do a little bit quicker, then they shift right into silent reading, and they know how that works. So that is my activity of the day. Now, guided reading is a little bit of a tricky one. I am only a second-year teacher, so I'm still learning, but this is how I found that it really has been working for me. So because I have four because I have 4 reading groups, I differentiate all of their spelling. A has their own spelling list, B has their own spelling list based on their needs, C and D have the same list. So the first day they come back to me during guided, I explicitly teach the pattern. It is the only time that I have to teach them the spelling pattern because we are all so over the place. So the first day we do guided reading, I teach the spelling pattern. And I will do that by a quick mini lesson, teach it, and then we practice all of our spelling words. I will say a word, for example, about, and they write it based on what I just taught them. If they get it right, they get it right. If they get it wrong, we fix it. So it's a lot of practicing. And then we do word work. We have magnetic letters. I will say start with drown, turn drown to crown. And so we do a lot of wordplay during that first day of guided reading. The second day of guided reading, we start a reader. So our school uses a program called Edge, and I'll show you what that looks like. I mentioned this in my last video. So it comes with a bunch of different readers, so there's enough for each kid, and then it also comes with a lesson. And I have been loving these because as a second-year teacher, I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to guided reading. So these are super helpful. They come with comprehension questions and things like that. Most schools have some sort of system like this. If yours doesn't, I don't know. I am not a guided reading expert by any means. So the second day we start doing our reader. So that's all I do with my high groups for the week. We continue the same book for about 2 weeks, sometimes 3. And if we finish spelling our words early, we'll jump right into a book. So that is how we do it with my higher groups. Now my B group that I see 4 times a week, our first day is our word work, and on the next 2 days, we read our story, we do our comprehension, and we focus on whatever skill we're working on. And then my 4th day, I try to do some sort of guided writing. So for them, it's a lot of grammar because they're missing a lot of the conventions. And so I really try to target what they need. And that looks like a variety of different things. I created these it's literally just lines and then space up here. So sometimes I will just have them free write and then we'll edit them together. Or I will ask them questions and they will need to restate the question and answer it about a book that we're reading here. And so I can really conference with them individually on writing. So that is what I do with them on the 4th day of guided. And so far that has been working out really good for me. So that's how each center kind of runs. So then lastly, I just want to chat about how I manage everything and how I get it to flow so well in my classroom. It definitely is working better this year than it did last year because it's my 2nd time doing it. I knew what to expect. So I start rolling centers out really slowly. We do 1 at a time. And then I have an anchor chart in my room that has all the centers and all of the expectations. So it stays up there all year long. I have designated spaces for them. So for the computers, they're at 2 groups. Activity of the day, they're at 1 of 2 other groups. So they know where they need to be. This is a time when I heavily use my Eagle tickets. That is our reward system, especially when they're back here with me. That's how I keep them focused. If we are reading a story and I popcorn them and they know where we are, they get an Eagle ticket. If they raise their hand and answer a question, they get an Eagle ticket, whether it's right or wrong. I will scan the room. If anyone's on task, I will ask them to come grab an Eagle ticket. And that for me has been working really, really well. So that's the main way I manage it. As far as the activity of the day goes, my kids know that if they do not get it done, it becomes homework. So for them, that's enough to motivate them to stay on task. So that has been working really well as far as managing that center. Technology, it's really no management. Silent reading, they know that they have to sit far away from one another. And truthfully, in my classroom, the kids get one warning, and the second warning is a reflection sheet, which goes home and gets signed. So by that time they've gotten that first warning, they are fixing their behavior, and it's been working really, really well for me. Something else I do for silent reading actually is I have 3 beanbags in my room, and I will look around the room quickly and I will scan and see if people who are eyes on text, I will say you can go get a beanbag, and I only get 3, so that really helps them like focus. And I try and even it out throughout the week to make it as fair as possible. And then so to manage my guided reading area as well, the main thing I noticed last year was that kids would constantly come up to my table and interrupt me, and I could not get anything done back here. So I have this. It doesn't have batteries right now, but it typically does. It's a push light, and I just created these letters with a black vinyl on my Cricut, and I'll push it, and when it's on, it says ask 3 then me. That means I am teaching. The only time you can come back here is if you're bleeding or barfing. That's what I tell them. So they have to ask 3 people in a whisper their question. If they cannot get it answered, then they may approach my table, and that has cut, I mean, I never get asked questions, which is amazing. So that was a huge, huge management thing for me that really, really helped, and hopefully it will help you if you decide to use that. So yeah, I think I hit everything that I do for our ELA centers. If you have any questions, please go ahead and leave them down below. I'll do my best to get to all of you. This is just what's been working for me, and I kind of tweak it as I go. I've tweaked it a little bit since last year, and this is kind of a block in your day that you just have to figure out what works for you. I've seen other center models work really well for certain teachers. I just know it's not gonna work for me. So this is what I found really works well for me, and it's working well for my kids. So hopefully I've given you some sort of inspiration, some kind of good ideas. If you do anything that I mentioned, go ahead and let me know down below. I love reading your guys' comments. That being said, I think I hit everything. So if you enjoyed this video, if I gave you any ideas, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Do not forget to click the little subscribe button. We have a lot going on here during Vlogmas. My Instagram story, if you don't follow me now. I'm like made a whole list of things that I'm planning on filming. This was just one of them. So thank you guys so much for watching. I love you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!